Hey there friends, thanks for joining me again. I'm Frugal Green Girl, and today I want to talk to you about lawn aeration. I have the what, who, why, when, where, and hows of aerating, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is the what. What exactly is aerating? Aerating is basically perforating the lawn to make it so that air, nutrients, and water can get down deeper into the soil. It basically, uses plugs or slices or things like that so where you can get the nutrients, the air, and the water down deep, and it basically fixes soil compaction. So let's go with the who's. Who would benefit from aerating their lawn? Basically anyone with hard soils, so like clay or things like that, or high traffic lawns, places where you have people that walk across it a lot or kids that play on it, etc. So those are the two people that benefit, and for me it's actually both of them. I have both clay soil and kids that play on the lawn. The next would be why. Why would you want to aerate your lawn? Well, basically it helps you to get healthier, greener grass with less fertilizer, less water, and it can also help with things like the environment, with having to buy less fertilizer, having to use less water, things like that, less fertilizer to get into the rainwater runoff. And also it can help with the drought and heat stress that your lawn has to endure every summer, especially if it gets hot and dry in your area. This can really be helpful. It can really help keep the grass green and not getting brown like it can in those hot summer months. The next thing would be when. When do you want to aerate your lawn? Basically anytime during the active growing season, sometime between early spring and early fall. The only time you don't want to do aerating is when it's like winter, when the grass isn't growing at all, or I would say within about a month of the time when the grass would normally start going dormant. If you aerate your lawn, it can encourage it to grow, and you don't want to be encouraging it to grow when it's actually supposed to be going dormant. So avoid about that last month before it normally goes dormant and the winter months, and you should be good. My favorite time to do aerating is actually in the early spring when it's nice and cool and the weather's fairly wet and things like that, and then it's good to go for the whole summer. I just do it once and then that's good. So that's when. The next thing would be where. Where do you want to aerate? You definitely want to make sure you're aerating in open grassy areas. Be really careful when you're aerating near trees, because trees have roots that go near the soil surface so that if there's a little bit of rain and whatnot, it can absorb the water from the rain. Trees have lots of other roots, but those are the ones that can easily be damaged by the aerating. So in those areas, in my lawn at least, it doesn't usually tend to get dried out in the summer because it's actually in dappled shade. So I just avoid the areas by my trees, and I make sure to do the areas that are only in the open grass that are, away from those trees and things like that. And then the last thing would be how. How do you aerate? Well, there's actually three types of aerating. There's spike, slice, and plug aerating. Spikes are usually manually done. The only way I know of that really people do these is with aerating shoes, which is actually not my favorite way. It's my least favorite way, actually. They're basically shoes that you strap on over your shoes with little nails, and you step down into the ground with them. Well, I found that these shoes are kind of hard to use, they're awkward, they kind of are pretty goofy, they break easily, and in the end they actually make the soil compaction worse, because when you stick the nail down in the soil, around the nail gets soil compacted even more. So this is my least favorite method, but that is one of the methods that people use, so the spikes. Slice would be mechanical. Normally people will use some sort of a machine, or I used to have a rototiller that had some tines that did slicing. You basically would just run over your lawn with the thing, run back and forth, with it, and then it would actually, it's kind of like a saw blade. It would just like cut slices into the ground to let that water and the nutrients and the air down deep. This used to be my favorite way. I used to really like it, but I don't have that rototiller anymore, so I can't use that method anymore. It did make it to where there were no plugs, which is the next method I'm going to talk about, and the lawn recovered really quickly from it, so it is a good method if you want to go a mechanical route. And then the last method that is probably the most common is plugs. Basically it's little machine with or hand done, so it's can be done both, but it's basically a machine that can do, it pushes the circle down into the ground, and then it pulls out a piece, little like tubes or cylinders of soil, so it doesn't make the soil compaction worse. It actually makes pretty big holes, so lots of air, nutrients, and soil, air, nutrients, and water can get down into the soil. And so it's really effective And because it can be done both mechanically and by hand, you know, this has actually become my favorite way to do it. So those are the 3 ways how you can aerate. When you actually go to aerate, you want to make sure that the soil is pretty moist. You want to make sure it's either been watered recently or it's rained recently, like say the night before or something like that, because if the soil is dry, it's going to be really hard to get the thing to poke down into the ground, and then it won't be as good at pulling out the plugs either. So moist and recently been watered is definitely something we want to shoot for. And then you want the plugs or slices to be somewhere between 6 and 12 inches apart, depending on how compacted your soil is and how often you aerate. If you aerate every year, of course, you can go a little bit further apart. If your soil is really, really super compacted, you know, you have a house with new construction where people have been driving around with machinery on your lawn and things like that, and so it's really compacted, or if you haven't done it in a while or you live in an area with hard clay soil like I have here, then you can put them as close as 3 inches apart. But for the most part, unless it's in a severe, you know, severely compacted, you can get by with just like 6 to 12 inches apart. And then let me go ahead and show my aerator. This thing, I bought it at Lowe's. It was actually 20 bucks. It was pretty inexpensive, and so I'm really happy with it. Basically, the handle, you push this down into the ground, and it actually has this flat part here where you can put your foot and push it down into the soil. And then as it goes down into the soil, it has these little rings, like I said, where it takes the soil and, you know, you push it down and it puts the soil in here, and then you push it down into another spot and then it puts a little more soil in, and then you push it down again. And eventually these little holes fill up with soil, and then it starts ejecting the plugs out of the top here. So it's actually really easy to use. Your foot does most of the work as far as pushing it down, and then with the handle you mainly do the work of pulling it back up. And because this doesn't use any gas or oil or electricity or anything, it's really, really easy to use. This has definitely become my favorite method. The only thing I don't like about the plug aerators is that if you leave the plug on the lawn, it can actually damage the lawn a little bit. So you definitely want to either mow over them. That's not the most ideal because it can make your lawns, or your mowers blades get dirty or dull. So that's one thing to consider. You can mow over them, that can help break them up though, or you can actually just rake them up. That's what I do. I'll go ahead and rake them up and take care of them, and that's that. So this thing took me about 20 minutes to do my lawn. I went ahead and went around my whole lawn and did it and raked them up, and it's good to go for the whole season. And since this is obviously something I can reuse every year, I really feel like it was a good investment. So now I can save money in the long run using less fertilizer or compost or whatever it is you use on your lawn. And then you can use less water on your lawn, and it can be good for the environment, and it can be good for your pocketbook. And you can still have nice green grass, even though everyone else's grass is turning brown from the heat and the drought stress of a hot, dry summer. So I hope you found this video helpful, and we'll see you next time. I'm Frugal Green Girl. Thanks for watching.